Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hello, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today we're discussing Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 4, Hippocratic Oath. Bashir and O'Brien are conflicted about whether they should help a rogue Jem'Hadar unit free themselves of addiction to Ketracel White. Also, Worf goofs around.
Before we get into the episode, I want to ask, how did you get into Deep Space Nine? Were you already an avid Next Generation fan at the time?
Well, I always liked Star Trek from watching it on TV when I was a little kid. But I never really got into Deep Space Nine when it was on TV because I just watched random episodes and I liked it, but I didn't really get the consistency, especially later on. And eventually I got the whole series and watched it through and thought, hey, this is pretty good. Well, I didn't think that in season 1, but eventually I thought it was good. What does that question have to do with this episode?
I asked that because I wanted to know how you reacted to this Worf plot the first time you saw it, but it may be difficult to recall. So maybe I'll say, how does it strike you now?
I think it is as predictable as it was the first time around. I remember thinking this whole Worf thing was silly. Odo's gonna have some master plan, and then he does. So, yeah, big surprise. Worf doesn't fit in. Angst. What?
Okay. Well,
is that what you thought?
Well, I was getting into that because I read that story as the writers saying, okay, we brought on Worf to lure Next Generation fans to watching our show, but it's a different show, and you may be watching our show and saying, hey, you should be doing this like the Next Generation, as Worf was saying you should be doing this. And then they had a bunch of lines that you could read as the writers talking to Next Generation fans, giving DS9 a shot. It's a little different than Life on a Starship. So it all read to me as an appeal to those fans to stick around. So I was curious how you reacted to that, but it doesn't seem like that even crossed your mind.
I was certainly not in the wave of fans that picked up DS9 to see Worf. Although, yeah, I think there was a lot in this one to win them over. I don't know if that's what they were going for. I guess they were probably adding in Worf and shaking some things up to make the series more popular, because I know by this point in its run it was flagging in ratings pretty badly, which is silly because this season has been by far the strongest one, just from the first 3 episodes.
By miles. This season has been the average is so far higher than other seasons have started out with.
So they're just trying to cement in that, yeah, it's Worf. And he's going to be in some different situations for your Worf variety fun.
Yeah, but he still has his resounding voice, so don't worry. Trust us. Let us show you how we do things.
If you ever need anything stated confidently, just ask Worf.
Anyway, we should talk about the actual episode.
Yes, what did you think?
I liked seeing O'Brien and Bashir imprisoned together again. This time they're at odds. They don't agree with how to proceed. And I like seeing that, how it's not always, well, we should do this, and then everyone rallies again behind one idea. People are different. They're going to have different ideas. It's fun to see those two clash, especially now that they've developed that relationship more and they're closer now. For example, O'Brien didn't immediately pulverize Bashir's face when he suggested that he wished Keiko were a man?
That's the second time O'Brien has stumbled into saying weird things about Keiko.
What was the first one?
He almost said that he loves Bashir.
Right.
Can't remember what episode that was.
What did you think of this episode?
It was good. The Jem'Hadar are such good antagonists. They're just super dangerous and kind of they keep everything moving fast. They don't muck about too much. And it was good to play Bashir's naivety against O'Brien's experience, and to come up with an actual medical ethics problem that Bashir actually thought about for the first time in his life. I like how matter of fact the Jem'Hadar are about things. They don't go out of their way to be super spooky, scary guys. They just say it how it is. For example, the guy saying, "Oh, you couldn't have run away. I'm faster."
Yeah, they don't have time to waste. Not even to heal a guy's leg.
Well, if they can grow a baby into a new soldier in just a few days, then lives probably wouldn't be very valuable.
That is depressing and true.
It's good. They don't need to big up how intimidating they are, because they are genuinely intimidating. They're strong, fast, invisible. They don't hesitate at all. And
They're drugged up.
Yeah, they're off their faces on drugs. Apart from one guy who didn't need it. Probably because of a mutation. Although we never really found out.
Yeah, that's too bad we didn't find out. As is common for me, I thought of a terrible way for the plot to go. And that's, I thought maybe the guy was lying and that his drug feeding tube was elsewhere, for some reason not on his neck. And so he was still on the drug, but he was lying to Bashir to try to get him to make a cure for it. But this wouldn't make any sense for how he interacted with Bashir, and it's a stupid way for the plot to go, so good thing it didn't.
That would have made sense if they had known a doctor was going to be there.
Yeah, if they kidnapped him or something. But it was blind luck that he ended up there.
Yeah, so it would not make any sense if they had a ruse ready in case a doctor stumbled in.
Alright guys, we only have 5 days to live, but if a doctor stumbles onto this planet that is off the trade route, then we are set.
Let me just stuff my Ketracel tube in my nether regions.
I really like the idea of a Jem'Hadar guy questioning his blind obedience and how there's a rift there. And they would be scary independent of the Dominion. So we have that idea, possibility.
Well, that was O'Brien's point. Freeing them of Ketracel wouldn't necessarily be a good idea in any sense. They might all turn into nice guys, but there's no reason why they would.
They may all resent the Dominion and weaken it. It could be a case of strengthening the enemy of your enemy, but then they could turn their eyes to the Federation and destroy them.
Well, yeah, these guys are bad enough when they're used sparingly, but if you just give them free rein, things could get pretty bad. Or, I don't know, it's good because it's unclear how it would play out. And that's the sort of point, is we never get to see, because O'Brien messed everything up.
Yeah, there's no clear indication which way they would go. Which means you shouldn't just help them and hope for the best.
I guess, but it's a Hippocratic oath. You should try to help people, regardless of, I don't know, stuff. The Hippocratic Oath is a pretty long document. It's a good few hundred words.
Does it have any sort of guidance for weaning off dinosaur dudes of equivalent of cocaine?
Well, the original one is pretty vague on actual medical stuff. It's pro-life and pro-kidney stones, strangely.
Oh, all right.
But the more updated ones are just sort of general. Yeah, you should do things to help people and not limit your doctoring based on... You shouldn't hold patients hostage. Actually, I don't know if it says that. It's sort of hard to take either Bashir or O'Brien's side in this one. Bashir is trying to do the altruistic thing, and O'Brien is just going to go home alive at the end of the day. That's his goal.
Yeah, and not to compromise the Federation.
So I guess even though he ends up looking like the bad guy, O'Brien is probably the guy with his head screwed on most.
It's a great moment when Bashir pulls rank and orders him to do something he really doesn't want to do.
Poor O'Brien, his face fell when that happened. But Bashir decided not to have him up on charges, which is, it's odd. Because if O'Brien hadn't done that, it's quite likely Bashir would have died without being successful at freeing the Jem'Hadar from Ketracel. So...
Which doesn't seem likely.
So O'Brien was kind of stuck in a damned if he does, damned if he doesn't way. Either he is to die with Bashir's quest to do good things, or disobey orders from a superior officer and live another day. At least one more, anyway.
With the possibility of having his life ruined if Bashir chooses to pursue that.
So it's kind of unfair. He has to die or face charges through no fault of his own.
O'Brien can take it. If it were anyone else...
That's not saying much, though. He's been through everything you can imagine and quite a lot of things you can't. So saying O'Brien can survive it is, yeah, he will survive.
So did you have any gripes?
I didn't really have any criticisms. I don't know if I'll do that many criticisms from now on. The show is a bit better written in terms of they've kind of got everything down. There's not so much silly stuff. So as the seasons have gone by, it's not been so common. But I did have 2 items of trivia.
All right, let's hear those.
Fresh off the wiki. Sisko was adjusting the clock he built in Dramatis Personae in season 1. Little pretty obvious thing there, but it's nice that they gave a hook back to an episode that no one would otherwise remember.
Yeah. Hey, remember this thing? Alright, just don't think about the episode.
Yeah, just assuming he has a clock. And another one, I don't usually point out when the same actor is used in 2 different roles, because it's fairly common on this show. Unless it's Jeffrey Combs. But the actor for Garanagar, did you recognize him?
There was something familiar about him, but I don't know who he is.
Oh, he was Tosk from season 1.
Ah, that's what it is. Alright. I couldn't place it. It was really bothering me, so I'm glad you brought that up. I think it was actually more to do with his cadence and his delivery. And maybe presence? I don't know. I sensed a familiarity there.
Well, Tusk looked like the Jem'Hadar a bit, and he could cloak and had some other traits in common. I think they were going to tie it all together so that he was like the race that... Or the Tusk race was given to the Hunters by the Dominion, and they were an offshoot from the Jem'Hadar race or something. but they never got fleshed out. Anyway, it was good to see that guy again. He's quite intimidating as a Jem'Hadar.
Yeah, he has great presence.
I really like the design of the Jem'Hadar. The little dinosaur heads they're kind of a bit goofy almost, but not enough to actually be goofy. But they look tough.
They certainly do. They have more detail than a lot of aliens on the show have, but they aren't overly designed where it annoys me to look at them. They have a lot of texture and it makes them look rough and tough. They have a good look.
Yeah, a lot of the aliens look like they just got a bum on the side of their head or something. They don't look. It looks like it would just be painful or something.
Yeah,
so,
as if they have odd growths that no one wants to talk about.
Yeah. So I'm glad that the Jem'Hadar are very sharp looking and pointy.
I have one criticism, but it's not unique to this episode. It's a general Star Trek thing, but it was in this episode, and that's why do they have to bark out a bunch of commands when things go sour? So the stuff happens to the runabout, and then they have to say, "Oh, divert power from this drive," and whatever. All that stuff should be automated. I don't see why they have to do it manually.
Well, the different control consoles have different options, so neither of them have a full complement of shuttlecraft features. So they have to tell each other what additional things they need to do.
So it's a design flaw?
Yeah, I was just thinking, because aeroplanes don't work like that. The pilot and the co-pilot both have a fairly full complement of controls, don't they?
I don't know. I thought the co-pilot was there in case the pilot became incapacitated.
Yeah, but the co-pilot can control everything from his seat.
Yeah.
Was apparently on a runabout or shuttlecraft. That is not the case anymore. You need to either roll around between consoles or you just need to shout across.
But then I thought, what if everything were automated? They would sit there in silence while the ship struggles to fly.
Just crashing into a planet. Bashir gets up, gets something out of the replicator.
Well, I hope the computer figures this one out.
They're kind of inconsistent about what the computer can and can't do. It seems to be able to solve some things which are incredibly difficult and then stumble at other simpler problems. It's just got a sort of plot limitations.
Shoddy programming.
Absolutely.
They can't be bothered to update it. The code is a mess.
Well, O'Brien's always complaining that the whole station is a mess and he needs to put new everything in all the time. I'm not clear how the ship crashed, but then they just flew away again.
I don't remember what caused them to crash in the first place. Was it...
Jem'Hadar brought them down, didn't they?
Oh.
Yeah, the Jem'Hadar took them down with a phase beam wobbler.
Okay.
And then presumably they could just fly away, even though their shuttle crashed pretty hard into the ground.
Let's step out anyway and smell this garbage planet.
It's a weird detail to add in, actually, that the planet smells like a garbage dump.
We can't expect all planets to agree with a human nose.
So, I mean, there might be a planet out there that smells like freshly baked bread all the time.
Yes.
That'd be pretty good.
I believe that's the bread planet.
Oh no.
But they spelled it B-R-E-D. It's weird.
Oh.
Easier to trademark. They have tours. People come from all over to smell the planet.
Ah, jeez. Making me hungry.
You can buy jars of trapped air from the bread planet.
Bread stonk.
Yes, that's what it's called.
Moving on, do you have a quote?
I do. Let's just say DS9 has more shades of gray.
Does he say DS9?
Yeah, I don't like that he says DS9, but he does. It's so obvious that he's talking to the audience that way. But it is true, DS9, it does have shades of gray, and that's one of the reasons I like it a lot, because there are characters who have murdery pasts, and stuff like with Odo, where he is linked to these terrible people, and he secretly wants to return to them, yet he works for security. There's all sorts of stuff where it's not, okay, this is clearly a good person and that's it.
It was kind of the pitch for this series, Star Trek, but a bit rugged and not so blatant with its morality.
Which is good. Your characters shouldn't be squeaky clean.
Well, Gene Roddenberry always wanted Federation guys to be squeaky clean. He had certain rules about what they could and could not do. For example, Federation guys should always get along and not have strife between them. They're always working as a team, all that sort of stuff.
So this show did not follow the Star Trek Bible.
No, not at all. Roddenberry died fairly early in Next Gen's original airing, season 2 or 3, I think. And Deep Space Nine started soon after, a couple of years after, so it was a fairly quick departure from what Roddenberry had idealized.
In a way, that's kind of messed up. Oh, he's dead. Let's go against his wishes. But I like DS9 a lot. I don't know, maybe it was time to shake things up.
Well, that happened in Next Gen as well. Later on, they had more sort of different stuff, to a lesser extent in DS9. But they didn't go against his wishes in a way, because often the strife is between Bajorans and Federation, or Cardassians and Federation. There's a lot more characters from different places. So they tried to keep the spirit of his ideas, but make the plots more interesting than having 10 Zap Brannigans walking around.
Your point would be stronger if we weren't talking about this episode, which was all about 2 Federation officers disagreeing.
Yeah, it does happen. They kept a lot of what he wanted. They just changed the things they thought were hindering the show after hundreds of episodes. You get the idea that, okay, we've played out every possible plot. We need these guys to disagree. Actually, the A plot and the B plot in this were both about Federation officers getting comeuppance.
Well.
You can interpret what Gene Roddenberry said as black or white, or as shades of grey. Ha!
Well done.
Yes, see that was a thing we mentioned a minute ago, and I ham-fisted it into there.
People love that. People love ham-fisting.
Well, I guess I am going to watch the next episode.
I ham as well.
Shalom.
Muzzle tov.
Okay, what? Goodbye.
Bye.